On a cold December morning in 1941, when the sun had barely risen over the Pacific Ocean, a tense silence surrounded a massive Japanese naval airfield. Pilots were strapping into their seats, mechanics were making final checks, and black smoke rising into the early sky signaled that something big was about to unfold. No one knew that this day would witness an aerial encounter that would be remembered for generations. Just days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japan turned its attention toward the Philippines. The American and Filipino forces were exhausted, poorly supplied, and overwhelmed. The skies already belonged almost entirely to the Japanese. In this chaos, a young squadron of American pilots flying the P-40 Warhawk, trained under the strict guidance of Claire Chennault, was trying simply to survive. The P-40 was strong but sluggish. Against the agile Japanese Zero fighter, it often struggled to match speed and maneuverability. That morning, without warning, the sky changed color. Radio operators heard trembling voices calling out emergency reports. Dozens of Japanese aircraft were heading straight toward the American airfield. The alarm blared across the base. Pilots sprinted toward their machines, while the atmosphere filled with panic and the roar of engines. Amid this chaos, one P-40 pilot made a decision no pilot would dare to take. He was alone, with no wingman to support him, and facing more than 60 Japanese aircraft emerging from behind the clouds. Most pilots would have retreated or attempted to land, but he chose a path that left even the enemy in disbelief. He pulled his aircraft hard upward, climbing with every ounce of power the P-40 could give. Japanese pilots below couldn't understand why one lone fighter was rushing toward the sky instead of fleeing, but the American pilot knew the Zero-S weakness. It could not climb as efficiently as the P-40 at high angles. If he could reach above the formation, their numerical advantage would dissolve, even if only for a moment. He burst through the clouds into bright sunlight. Below him, the swarm of Japanese fighters circled in tight groups, unaware of what waited above. For the first time in the encounter, the lone P-40 had the advantage. He leveled his aircraft, steadied his breathing, and then dove. With the sun behind him, his shadow flashed across the clouds like a blade. The Japanese pilots had no chance to react. The P-40's machine guns erupted, tearing into the formation. In seconds, the sky turned into chaos. He climbed again, swung around, and attacked from a different angle. Each strike was swift, precise, and unpredictable. He was outnumbered beyond reason, yet he was dismantling the formation one pass at a time. Reports from the Japanese squadron commander reflected confusion and fear. Pilots claimed they were being attacked from above, but none could spot how many American fighters were actually involved. No one imagined the truth, that a single man was behind the assault. The battle stretched on for nearly half an hour. Ammunition began to run low, and fuel was starting to drop. Still, he refused to pull away. Several Japanese fighters fell flaming into the sea, while others broke apart midair. Eventually, the formation scattered, retreating in multiple directions. What had begun as an overwhelming assault ended in disorder. When the P-40 finally returned to the airfield, its body was riddled with bullet holes. Mechanics and fellow pilots stared at the damaged aircraft as if a ghost had flown it. The pilot stepped out exhausted, breathing heavily, but with a quiet determination in his eyes. He had faced a force larger than anything a single fighter pilot should ever have encountered, and lived to tell the tale. This event was later recorded in Army Air Force's reports. Some dismissed it as impossible, some believed it was exaggerated, but intercepted Japanese radio transmissions confirmed what many doubted. A single P-40 had indeed fought against an entire Japanese formation that day. Even today, this moment stands among the boldest actions in the history of aerial combat. Over time, the pilot's name became mixed in various retellings, but the courage behind his actions remains clear. He was not just flying a fighter plane, he was defending the belief that sometimes a single human being, with nothing but determination, can challenge the impossible.